On the final day of February, Donald Trump decided to take the biggest gamble of his political career and launch the biggest war the Middle East has seen in decades that is radically and quickly changing the way our entire world works. After months of buildup, the war was launched in coordination with Israel on the 28th of February that immediately involved heavy Israeli airstrikes on the personal compound of Iran's 86-year-old supreme leader, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, killing him in a sea of fire. Multiple other opening Israeli airstrikes immediately targeted other senior Iranian leadership in an attempt to decapitate as much of the country's ruling elites as possible, which up to this video's production has included the Iranian defense minister, the head of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or the IRGC, and dozens of others. Within just the first 6 days of the war start, the U.S. military already carried out more than 2,000 airstrikes all across Iran that have sunk nearly the entirety of the Iranian Navy's major service vessels. While a separate U.S. submarine strike on an Iranian frigate thousands of miles away from Iran off the coast of Sri Lanka represented the first U.S. submarine kill since the end of the Second World War. America's chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff has claimed that the opening day of the war involved nearly double the number of American munitions dropped that were dropped on Saddam Hussein's Iraq on the first day of the Shock and Awe campaign in 2003. While the Israeli Air Force has claimed they have been actively striking around 1,000 targets all across Iran every single day as well. A pace of attacks that have been enabled by their newly gained ability to fly over Syria and American aerial tankers refueling them in the sky. Western-based human rights groups have already reported that more than 1,000 civilians across Iran have already been killed by these American and Israeli airstrikes. Military casualties beyond the supreme leader within Iran due to this overwhelming aerial war are so far unclear. But the Israelis have been actively attempting to strike every single IRGC headquarters across the country and even bomb the building that contained the senior leadership responsible for selecting the next supreme leader. A clear sign that Israel's military objective at least is to grind down Iran's military capabilities and cause enough shock to the system to induce the regime into collapse by whatever means necessary. America and Trump's objectives for having started the war, meanwhile, remain much less clear. Trump himself has variously urged all the Iranian people to rise up against the battered regime in a revolution, suggesting it's about regime change, while also saying that he would still be willing to talk to the regime and cut some kind of a deal. His Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has variously stated that America's war aims are to destroy Iran's ballistic missile program and its navy, while his Secretary of War, Pete Hence, has added that it's also about finishing off all of Iran's nuclear capabilities as well. In justifying the attacks, Trump and his administration officials have variously stated that it was because Iran was supposedly too close to acquiring a nuclear weapon despite the strikes on Iran's nuclear program last year that had it supposedly obliterated their capabilities to a sense that Israel was going to strike Iran regardless of what America wanted. And so America had to attack Iran first in order to destroy their ability to retaliate to that Israeli attack, to a feeling by Trump himself that the Iranians were supposedly preparing to attack first and America had to preemptively strike them along with the Israelis. It's all pretty vague, but the biggest reason is simply the cold geopolitical calculus that the Americans and Israelis felt that the Iranian regime was at its weakest point in decades. Iran's water resources had dried up after years of mismanagement and drought. Its economy and currency were both in active freefall, while a large-scale popular uprising against the regime in January was brutally suppressed by the regime's besieged paramilitary units after Ham ordered them to begin opening fire indiscriminately. Sensing that these protests were an existential threat against the regime, credible human rights organizations estimate that the besieged paramilitary units massacred a minimum of 7,000 of the protesters. While other estimates go up to as high as 30,000 deaths or even higher, representing by far the bloodiest crackdown on protesters in modern Iranian history. Trump threatened in a clear red line that if the regime began killing protesters en masse, he would intervene militarily. And they crossed the red line anyway, and he initially didn't do much of anything to retaliate. The U.S. military wasn't really in a good position to do so at the time without even any aircraft carrier strike groups present in the region at all. In fact, Trump's threats may have given the regime a perverse incentive to re-establish their control over their own population at any cost. before the US could actually deploy their assets back to the region to respond. But following the ruthless put-down of the protest and sensing the regime's lingering vulnerability, the US began rapidly concentrating their assets back into the region to the largest scale since the 2003 invasion of Iraq, began threatening the regime to negotiate on surrendering its nuclear and ballistic missile programs or face the consequences, and then eventually evidently decided to simply attack to force the regime into submission or collapse through alternative means instead. And now the war that he started risks exploding across the entire Middle East. It risks massive destruction to the global economy, and it risks rapidly devolving into a quagmire whose outcome could end up being much, much worse than the world we knew beforehand. The Iranians have, before the US could actually deploy their assets back to the region to respond. But following the ruthless put-down of the protest and sensing the regime's lingering vulnerability, the US began rapidly concentrating their assets back into the region to the largest scale since the 2003 invasion of Iraq, began threatening the regime to negotiate on surrendering its nuclear and ballistic missile programs or face the consequences, and then eventually evidently decided to simply attack to force the regime into submission or collapse through alternative means instead. And now the war that he started risks exploding across the entire Middle East. It risks massive destruction to the global economy, and it risks rapidly devolving into a quagmire whose outcome could end up being much worse than the world we knew beforehand. The Iranians have decided to retaliate against these existential American and Israeli attacks by basically attacking everyone else around them. Since the war began, the Iranians have fired hundreds of ballistic missiles and thousands of explosive kamikaze drones into the territories of Oman, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, Iraq, Syria, Jordan, Israel, Cyprus, Turkey, and Azerbaijan. So far, on the opening day of the war alone, Iran fired 180 ballistic missiles towards Israel and another 250 more at the various 6 Gulf countries. 5 days into the war, the UAE reported that Iran had fired more than 189 ballistic missiles into its territory and 941 of their cheaper explosive kamikaze drones, 93% of which they reported were successfully intercepted by their air defenses. Hundreds of additional projectiles have since been fired by Iran all across Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar. While smaller numbers of projectiles numbering in the dozens have also been launched into Saudi Arabia and Oman. And while most of the projectiles fired at these countries have also been intercepted, a few have broken through and damage has been inflicted. In Dubai, the fancy Fairmont Hotel on the Palm Jaya, one of the city's famous reclaimed islands, was lit ablaze on the very first day. Debris from an intercepted missile rained down on the exterior of the famous Burj Arab luxury 7-star hotel, sparking a fire there as well, while more debris impacted Dubai's huge international airport and fell across residents' own backyards. More notably, Iranian drones have deliberately struck 3 of Amazon's data centers in the region as well. 2 impacted Amazon data centers in Dubai on the opening day of the war, while a third impacted another Amazon data center in Bahrain a few days later, representing the first times that critical AI-related infrastructure have been attacked or damaged during wartime. And all of this has been a major shock to Dubai and the UAE's entire economic model, which for decades has been based on presenting itself as a supposed oasis of stability and calm in a dangerous but geographically critical region that links east and west for foreign businesses to set up the regional operations in. It has appealed as a place of residence for wealthy foreigners for decades now. From Arabs attempting to escape the strife in the rest of the region to Europeans dodging their taxes to Russians and Ukrainians fleeing military service. Dubai has received more foreign direct investment, more AI-related data centers, and is home to more regional foreign offices than any other city in its region because of this reputation, which has led the city to be able to grow fabulously wealthy with its glittering skyline. Now all of that is in jeopardy because of this war. The hum of hundreds of ballistic missiles and drones flying over the city and the thunder of interceptors blowing them up in the sky and the roar of fighter jets along with famous hotels and landmarks and infrastructure going up in flames has shattered the illusion of Dubai being this oasis of calm and stability in a sea of chaos. Not since the Second World War has a city as globally well connected as Dubai been attacked so heavily during wartime.